Sure, would that work for the other side as well, or just Ukraine? So it's like only Ukraine needs to feel like it's just on their end for it to actually be a just end to the war?
Yes, precisely because they were not the aggressors. So Putin was the aggressor, he invaded, and everything that followed from that is down to him.
I don't even think it's a good negotiating tactic. If I would have told Peter that I wanted $5,000 for my appearance here today, and he would have said no, and I would have pulled out a gun and threatened to kill myself, I don't know if that makes it a good negotiating tactic, and that seems to be what Trump is doing, is he's running around threatening to explode the world order if he doesn't get what he wants.
But he does crazy shit, and then the left doesn't agree.
Well, because it's crazy shit. By definition, you shouldn't agree with it. It's the president of the United States.
That's your perception of crazy shit.
Trump will negotiate a just end to the Russia-Ukrainian war within his term. Move. Okay, can you go? Okay, you have 3 minutes to have a conversation.
First of all, I don't see how anyone can justify any invasion, any fighting or war of any kind. Let's keep it simple. We can drown in all the facts that Destiny's going to come up with, right? I don't want to drown in the facts. Let's keep it simple. The fact that Trump uses logic and common sense, I believe he has the capacity, the capability of coming up with a sound solution to solve a problem. Every problem has a solution. You may not agree with it, but I strongly agree that no one wants war, everyone wants to end this, and that he will come up with a resolution.
But a just resolution.
Just resolution is, what's justified? They wouldn't agree unless it was justified. I believe that he will have a sound solution to both parties and say, hey, okay, how can I say no? Let's move forward. Let's end this.
Okay.
I mean, I think Trump is just going to negotiate. I say negotiate. He's just going to have Ukraine surrender completely. I think that they're having talks right now in Riyadh. I think in Saudi Arabia. I don't think Zelensky was even invited. It's just Trump and Putin speaking right now. I think he's just going to negotiate basically a full surrender of Ukraine, and I think it's probably going to come with the secession of quite a bit of territory, unfortunately. But we didn't need Trump for that. It's just a full surrender, I think, of Ukraine, basically.
What did Zelensky just agree on?
I don't think anything.
Well,
he was rejected from joining them in Saudi Arabia, right?
Well, he walked away from something and said, hey, let me discuss this with my team. And then said, oh, I don't agree with Trump. Forget about it. And then the next day came back and agreed on something with Trump. What was that?
Unless it's happened within the last 12 hours or something, and I missed it, I'm not sure.
So,
I know there was a piece of paper that was supposedly slid across the table asking for like 50% of their mineral reserves or something. I don't know about that.
Because we need some kind of repayment for what we've invested. And
I don't know if that's true, but...
Well, none of us know if anything's really true, right? We're here on perception.
Well, I mean, I don't think we need something from Ukraine. I think that we have a great benefit to being the leaders of the free world and ensuring like free trade and everything.
Well, that's the perception that Trump has brought to the table, and that's the way he looks at it. He looks at everything as a negotiation.
Yeah, but we're not getting anything from any of his negotiations.
We haven't, really?
No. Right now, the biggest issue we're talking about right now, for instance, is with Mexico and Canada. That's the trade deal that he negotiated, the renegotiation of NAFTA. But now he's like unhappy. It seems like we don't get anything from any of his negotiations.
The fact that he negotiated to go against the complete wokeness of so many years of just blasphemy to the United States is a huge negotiation with the people of the United States, and he won the position.
He won an election. I don't know what the negotiation is there, but
keep it to the Russia-Ukrainian war. What do you think, and I'm going to ask you the same question, what do you think a just end would look like?
I couldn't tell you. I'm not educated enough to know what a just end would look like, but I believe that Trump will come up with a sound solution that's justified for all parties to agree to end this.
What do you think a just end would look like?
Severe reparations paid by Russia for the rebuilding of Ukraine and the secession of all the territory, Crimea included, back to Ukraine from what the borders looked like before 2014.
And how realistic do you think that is?
With Trump as a president, 0%, well, 1% chance, I guess, because he could always do some crazy shit and who knows.
Okay.
But
he does crazy shit and then the left doesn't agree.
Because it's crazy shit. By definition, you shouldn't agree with it. It's the president of the United States.
That's your perception of crazy shit. But when you look at it, it's logical.
I'm going to give you
Makes sense.
Five more seconds. Okay. You're on the neutral, sir. Can you come up? I'll let you ask one question of each.
I suppose the fundamental epistemological question here is that we cannot predict the growth of knowledge. We don't know what the future will hold. So how can you know that Trump will do this or won't do that? So what's your insight into Trump psychology?
Yeah, I would never claim I know anything, actually. It's my prediction, because of my faith in the fact that everything that he's done currently, his great negotiation skills that he's proven throughout his personal life, what he's brought to the table with the team that he has in place right now, a lot of the left on the team. It's just, to me, it's blown my mind how great it's been. And it's my belief that he will come up with a resolution.
Do you have any optimism about Trump playing 4D chess, let's say? In recent days, he's seemingly, along with Musk, been very much against Zelensky. Do you think this might be a ploy to get the Europeans to intervene more heavily and achieve this just outcome?
None of Trump's 4D chess has ever worked. There is not a single example of him saying something crazy and then something good resulting from it. I don't even think it's a good negotiating tactic. If I would have told Peter that I wanted $5,000 for my appearance here today, and he would have said no, and I would have pulled out a gun and threatened to kill myself, I don't know if that makes it a good negotiating tactic, and that seems to be what Trump is doing, is he's running around threatening to explode the world order if he doesn't get what he wants, but we haven't even gotten anything great yet. I think Israel, he made the thing, by Saturday afternoon, all the hostages will be back, and they weren't. I mean, we're not getting anything. For Canada and Mexico, we're arguing over stuff, and we haven't really gotten anything from them, over 25% tariff threats. Canada's conservative prime minister, the guy who was going to be, that Pierre guy, probably is going to lose his election now because of how much Canadian liberals are gaining power because of how insane Trump's positions are in the United States. Actually, here would be my question. Why is it that when Trump does all these crazy negotiating things, why is it always pointed at one side? Why hasn't Trump come out and said, if Russia doesn't leave Ukraine, I'm going to nuke Moscow? Now, the left would say, or everybody, the right might go wait, that's crazy, that's insane. But every time he does this to the left, they're like, oh, no, of course it's crazy. 1,000% tariffs on the whole world are crazy. But that's just how Trump negotiates. Why does he never do it against the other side? Why not try that and see how it works?
Yeah, I have no special insight into the psychology of Donald Trump either, so I can't predict what he'll do. Okay.
Well, I'm really struggling to not answer that question about nuking Moscow, but I'm going to remain neutral. Okay, can you go back and why don't you decide among yourselves who come up, and then why don't you decide among yourselves who's going to go up?
Okay,
2
so
minutes.
The thing is, we got to identify what injustice is before we can understand what just end means. Injustice, you are imposing in my territory. Period. Injustice.
So what would a just end
A just
look
end,
like?
as my friend said, go back to the 2014 borders. That is a just end, and that's why I think Trump is unable to negotiate that.
Okay,
because you cannot negotiate that with Russia.
Sorry to interrupt. He also said one more thing, that Russia has to pay for the rebuilding of Ukraine. Do you agree with that in terms of a just end? Tell him.
I don't know if Russia have to pay for the rebuilding of Ukraine, only because they haven't paid us reparation for slavery yet.
The Russians?
No, I mean, I'm just saying. So I'm not sure Russia will pay that. I'm not sure we can negotiate that. But what we can negotiate is Russia getting out of Ukraine back to the 2014 borders. And just on the point of we getting repaid by Ukraine, what we did don't need to be repaid, because most of the money that was spent in Ukraine is spent right in America with American manufacturers building the weapons to send to Ukraine. That was most of the money they spent right in America.
A just end is, very subjective, okay? My feeling is that Trump is a disruptor, and he's a good negotiator, and it just seems like that, in my estimation, he's always succeeded in one way or another, whether I agree with it or not.
Oh, so you're answering the question in terms of your confidence based upon what Trump has done in the past. Do you
Right.
think he'll succeed in the future?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but how would you start by asking Ukraine to give up territories? How would you start that? How would you start by asking Ukraine to give up 50% of their minerals? That is insane and ridiculous. Ukraine doesn't need to give up 50% of their minerals. So starting that way and not even including Zelensky in the negotiation, you're negotiating on the back foot.
Okay, we're out of time, possibly because I had a question. I'll give you one question to each side.
Okay, so if the
Who's this for?
I'll go for the how do you think the Ukraine would be able to rebuild itself if Russia was not going to chip in for the reconstruction funds?
I think Ukraine has enough minerals and enough wheat to rebuild itself out of that ashes, rise as a phoenix. They don't need Russia. We don't need anything from Russia. Let form that border, put enough army on that border to protect Ukraine and let Ukraine build itself, because they import the most foodstuff to Africa. Let them continue doing that. Their minerals and their food will be enough to rebuild Ukraine on their own.
You have one question to the other side.
Do you think that Trump would be able to bring Zelensky and Putin to the table and actually have them negotiate, or do you think he's going to try to impose a solution based on just Putin alone?
I think it's going to depend on whether or not the two can, get each, that Trump can get Zelensky to the table. Okay, because right now, the way it seems, he's not coming to the table. Okay, and I can't interpret that as, does he want the war to continue, or, basically what is his objective by not negotiating?
Okay, I'm going to give you the last word.
No, because I keep hearing you guys saying Zelensky is not coming to the table. It's not that Zelensky is not coming to the table. He's saying giving up his territory is a non-starter. If it's a non-starter, that means to even put it out there, it means you don't want him on the table, because he's saying it's a non-starter, period. So by putting it out there means I don't want you on the table.
Okay, go back to did anybody move, by the way? Oh, you did? Where did you move, from where to where?
I moved from strongly disagree to absolutely disagree, because
One sentence, why?
I don't believe Trump has any possibility of ever negotiating a just end if all he's going to do is cut out Ukraine.
Okay, new claim. A just end to the war could include Ukraine giving up some of its territory to Russia. Move. Okay, Brett. Okay, you have 3 minutes. Go.
Okay, well, I mean, I think it's obvious that if there's going to be a just end to a war, either side is going to have to give up something. So I would assume that not both parties are going to be absolutely in love with the final outcome. Like, Ukraine's going to have to give something up, Russia's going to have to give something up. So yeah, I absolutely agree that would involve. Zelensky can't be the one calling all the shots right now, and I think he has been for a few years. So I think that it's fair if both parties go away a little disappointed, because that's just the name of the game.
That's not the name of the game. Compromise is the worst possible outcome. At the end of the Second World War, what did we do with Germany and Japan? We didn't concede anything to them. We didn't allow them to have a little bit of the land they took. We put them back into their box. The same thing should be done with Russia in this particular situation. And the claim itself contains a refutation of what we're arguing here. A just end to the war does not require you to give something up. It may lead to the end of the war, but it wouldn't be just, because you're giving up something that you own and you didn't want to.
Sure, would that work for the other side as well, or just Ukraine? So it's like only Ukraine needs to feel like it's just on their end for it to actually be a just end to the war?
Yes, precisely because they were not the aggressors. So
Sure.
Putin was the aggressor, he invaded, and everything that followed from that is down to him.
I'm a little concerned about equating Russia today with Nazi Germany and evil Axis Japan. I think also that's a little cartoonish, but I understand if that's your point of view. I understand how you would think that wouldn't be just, but I think in the real world, we're not going to get a perfect answer for the end of the conflict. So at the very least, both parties should be ready to give something up.
Yeah, it will never be perfect, and it's not to say that Russia is like Nazi Germany. It is just to say that there's an isomorphism between them, that the situation was that it was German aggression that led to the violence and all of the atrocities that happened during that war. And so what has happened now with the Russia-Ukraine war are atrocities and violence due to the initiation of violence by Russia. Ukraine is simply defending itself. And so the just thing to happen would be for Ukraine to be given back what has been taken from it.
Okay, I disagree, but yeah.
Okay, you go back. You come forward, please. I'll give you 2 minutes. Go.
So I think there is a comparison to World War II here, and I don't think we in any way need to be giving a foreign hostile nation that was the aggressor in this situation the ability to totally cut out the nation that they are trying to overtake in their own negotiations. And because of that, if we give away any of Ukraine's land, which Russia himself has agreed that they are a sovereign nation, that is not a just conclusion to a war.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's much of anything that can be said to get me to move out of here, because even in the phrasing it says could. It doesn't say would. Like, I'm not saying that Ukraine must give up for the end to be just, but I feel like, yes, that should be an option if we actually want the bloodshed to stop. There's been over a million people dead.
What did Ukraine do to actually warrant having their land taken away? They were not the aggressor. They were attacked.
What the Ukrainian government did, or like, are you talking about like the persecutions in Maidan, or the persecutions of ethnic Russians,
or warrant the war?
Sorry?
What did the Ukrainian government do to warrant Russia attacking them?
From the Russian perspective, I'm not saying this is my perspective, but from the Russian perspective, it would be the persecution of ethnic Russians and ethnically speaking Russians in Ukrainian territory that were treated like below second-class citizens. And I think that's kind of the
We're out of time.
that's
I'll
the
give you the last
justification on
word.
their end.
Okay, so even if, let's say, in America, Mexican people were being mistreated, it doesn't give Mexico the ability to come into our country and say Texas is ours now. That doesn't equate in terms of foreign affairs. And because of that, even if there was abuse of Russian-speaking people in Ukraine, I don't believe that that's a reason that Russia should have just attacked them.
Okay. I'm going to give you one question for each side.
Sure. Just to be clear, I'm here on a hyper-nuanced position that there might be a world where Sevastopol is leased or something to Russia because they like that port and it's really important to them. I don't know if reasonably they'd ever lose access to place. That's the only reason I'm here instead of over there. But I guess maybe my question then would be, I don't know how familiar you are with the details of everything, but Sevastopol is one of Russia's few warm water ports that they have access to in Crimea. Do you think that it's possible that Russia could, let's say Russia says, we're going to pay full reparations for all of our damage, we're going to restore all of your territorial integrity, we're not even going to own Sevastopol, but we just want like an agreement for like a 99-year lease or something where we have the right to this like piece of territory so that we can use this unobstructed, and then the right to like travel to and from it. Do you think that's like possible for like a just end of the war?
Yeah, I think that's possible. I don't think that would be just giving the land to Russia. It's a lease, so it still would belong to Ukraine.
Sure. Okay. It's just one they're being forced into to end the war. But sure, okay, I understand that. And then here's a question I always have for people to talk about justice and both sides have to be unhappy. What is Russia being asked to give up?
I guess in their view would be like the protection of the ethnic Russians and the Russian-speaking people in the area that they feel some sort of loyalty to, considering that they're being persecuted based off their ethnicity or nationality or the language that they speak. And also, I would agree to the land that they have taken to go back to Ukraine if there was some protection set in place that the same things that were happening prior to the war wouldn't happen in the future, right? So if
you would agree with an end to the war where all the territory goes back to Ukraine, but there's like a UN peacekeeping force along maybe some of the more ethnically Russian territories?
Well, if it's UN or if it's something, if it's a way that feels fair and protective, sure. I mean, I don't know what the details of that would be, but yeah, I'm open to that, absolutely. I'm not like completely dogmatic about this, but I think that that's an actual issue of ethnic minorities being persecuted.
Okay. I have to say this, my Ukrainian friends will kill me. I don't think that's ever was the case. I don't think it's true that they were being persecuted in Russia, but I just have to get that out there, but okay.